Part 4, Power rises. Malevolently Empire of Celestia then decides to attempt to research advanced energy shield technology, and thus, the attempted research is begun. While researching energy shield technology, the scientists accidentally create a powerful but unstable force field that begins to destabilize the asteroid belt, threatening the entire solar system. As the engineers work frantically to contain the runaway force field, Dr. Erebus, now fully possessed by the ancient alien entity, senses the danger and decides to take action. He appears before them, his body now glowing with an otherworldly aura. This power, he says, his voice echoing through the asteroid, it is meant for a greater purpose. Together, we shall harness it and rule the galaxy. Alexis, the lead engineer, steps forward, her face a mask of determination. We can't let you control this, Erebus. It's too dangerous. Dr. Erebus smiles, his expression eerie and unsettling. But you misunderstand. I don't seek to control it. I merely wish to harness its power, as you are trying to do with your energy shields. Together, we could achieve wonders. Alexis hesitates, considering his words. She knows that Erebus' past actions have been unpredictable at best, but she can't deny the potential benefits of working with him. Alright, she says slowly. We'll give you a chance to prove yourselves. But if anything goes wrong, I want your word that you'll stop. Dr. Erebus nods solemnly. You have my word. As his smile spreads far beyond what is natural or even near canny. The engineers, still skeptical, but willing to give Dr. Erebus the benefit of the doubt, begin to work with him. They set up their equipment, carefully calibrating the force field generator and linking it to the asteroid's power core. Dr. Erebus, for his part, seems to understand the technology better than anyone else, offering insightful suggestions and improvements. Before then, suddenly they all feel way too willing to follow his commands compared to what is reasonable, as they then subtly fall under his complete and utter control. Alright everyone, it is time to begin. We shall harness the power of this force field and use it to forge a new empire, one that will rule over all the galaxies. Dr. Erebus speaks with a newfound confidence and authority, his voice resonating throughout the asteroid belt. The engineers and workers nod in unison, their faces twisted in a mix of awe and fear as they realize that they are now mere pawns in his grand scheme. As Dr. Erebus then proceeds to absorb the solar system, destroying power of the force field into himself. The engineers and workers, now fully under his control, watch in awe and horror as he begins to glow brighter and brighter. The asteroid belt rattles and the gravity seems to shift around them. With a final burst of energy, Dr. Erebus explodes, his body dissipating into a cloud of shimmering particles that seem to merge with the very fabric of space.
In that moment, something fundamental shifts in the universe. A new power has been born, and it is more terrifying and awe-inspiring than anything they could have imagined. The engineers look at each other, their faces pale and their minds reeling from what has just happened. They no longer know who they can trust, or what their place is in this new order. As if sensing their confusion and fear, the asteroid belt begins to tremble once more. This time, it's not the result of some celestial collision, but rather the approach of a massive ship. The vessel materializes out of the darkness, its hull gleaming with an unnatural light. It's unlike anything they've ever seen before, sleek and deadly. It resembles a living being more than a machine. The engineers and workers cower in fear as the ship's landing bay opens up, revealing a figure that seems to glow with an otherworldly aura. He steps out onto the surface of the asteroid, his footfall causing the rock to shudder beneath them. He's dressed in regal robes, adorned with jewels and gold, and his face is masked by a silver helmet that obscures his features. I am Dr. Erebus, the master of this new empire, he booms, his voice echoing through the asteroid belt. I have harnessed the power of the force field and forged it into my own being. You all now belong to me, and you will serve my will. There is no escape, no resistance. The engineers and workers, their minds still reeling from the events that have transpired, exchange uncertain glances. They are terrified by the power that Dr. Erebus now wields, but they also can't help but feel a sense of awe and reverence. They know that they are part of something bigger now, something that will change the course of the universe forever. The Empire of Shadow Stein. then decides to attempt to colonize the planet of Jupiter. And thus, the attempted colonization begins. Shadow Emperor Alpha's forces land on Jupiter, and they find it to be a lush and beautiful world, teeming with life and resources. They immediately begin setting up bases and infrastructure, preparing for the eventual influx of colonists. However, they are not alone on Jupiter. The native species, which Shadow Emperor Alpha's forces call the Jovians, are intelligent and technologically advanced, and they are not willing to give up their planet without a fight. The Jovians launch a fierce counterattack against the invaders. Employing their advanced technology and tactical prowess, the battle rages across the surface of Jupiter, with neither side gaining an advantage. As the conflict drags on, however, it becomes clear that the Jovians have an unexpected ally, the Cloaked Figure. The Cloaked Figure, still reeling from his encounter with Shadow Emperor Alpha, has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to undermine the Empire of Shadow Steen's efforts. He infiltrates their command centers, sabotages their equipment, and spreads dissent among their ranks. His actions are so effective that Shadow Emperor Alpha himself begins to take notice. Who is this mysterious figure who dares to stand against me? Shadow Emperor Alpha wonders aloud, his eyes flashing with anger and curiosity. He launches a series of attacks against the Cloaked Figure, but each time, the Cloaked Figure manages to slip through his grasp. Shadow Emperor Alpha eventually personally corners the Cloaked Figure himself, to where there is nowhere to run from. The Cloaked Figure stands before Shadow Emperor Alpha, unflinching. You have grown arrogant, Shadow Emperor Alpha. You believe yourself invincible, but you are not. You are no different from any other mortal. You can be defeated, and I will be the one to defeat you. I know I am not invincible. I also know that few who would be capable of killing me would be willing to even try. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, his voice very sure, but not overconfident, but purely saying it in a way one would say a genuine fact. The Cloaked Figure narrows his eyes, thinking hard. Then I shall be the one to break that pattern. I have faced creatures and beings far worse than you, and yet I have survived. I will survive this encounter as well. Shadow Emperor Alpha smirks. We shall see, but know this: even if you were to succeed in killing me, the Empire of Shadowstein would not crumble. It would only be reborn, stronger than ever, and you, my dear Cloaked Figure, would only be remembered as a footnote in my glorious history, and even I would be reborn, perhaps back into my hideous previous form. But still, I will never truly die, until I finally have brought my balance and peace across existence. Shadow Emperor Alpha says emotionally, yet not angrily, then you admit defeat, even if it is only temporary. The Cloaked Figure asks, his voice calm, confident, and unyielding. Defeat is such a flawed term, because most never truly are defeated. They simply lose a battle, and the war tends to never be truly won. True defeat is just a fictional concept. True defeat doesn't exist. Shadow Emperor Alpha says in very philosophical and nihilistic way. The Cloaked Figure raises an eyebrow. And yet you seem so certain that I will fail. Oh, yes, you will, because, well, you are merely a puppet to a higher force, a pawn to be sacrificed for their gain in the future, and destroying you now would ruin their own malicious plans. Shadow Emperor Alpha says. The Cloaked Figure's eyes widen in surprise, and then narrow in anger. You dare to speak of my master in such a manner. I am no pawn, no mere servant. I am the chosen one, the savior of the universe. I will bring balance and peace to all, whether you like it or not. Well then, let's test that, shall we? Shadow Emperor Alpha says emptily yet intimidatingly. The Cloaked Figure smirks. You are no match for me, Shadow Emperor Alpha. You have grown soft and complacent in your power, but I will show you what it means to truly face defeat with a burst of speed. The Cloaked Figure lunges forward, his hands outstretched towards Shadow Emperor Alpha. Before then, tendrils of darkness burst out faster than he can even see. and smacks him back across the room, shattering most of his bones. All of the while, Shadow Emperor Alpha just has a melancholic and somber expression on his face. The cloaked figure tries to crawl back to his feet, but it's no use. He can't move, his entire body in shambles. Shadow Emperor Alpha simply walks over to him, kneels down, and gently removes the hood from his head. You know, you remind me of someone I once knew, a young woman, just as ambitious and foolish as you are. She thought she could bring peace and balance by becoming a pawn, a weapon in the hands of a greater power. And she was right, in the short term, but in the end, it only led to more suffering. And her reincarnation is even now one of my advisors. Shadow Emperor Alpha continues, looking somber and melancholic still. The cloaked figure, however, starts laughing, a pained and bitter sound. You think I care about that I fear it. I would welcome it. I would embrace it, because it would mean that I would have another chance to set things right. Another chance to bring balance and peace. The fact you even still believe that shows how foolish and beyond saving you truly are. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, even more melancholically and somberly, No, you're wrong. I am not a fool. I am not. I see the truth. I know what must be done. The cloaked figure gasps for breath, struggling against the pain and immobility. You know, you really remind me of someone I knew when I was younger. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, melancholically and somberly reminiscing. The cloaked figure rolls his eyes. Oh, great. Another one of your stories about how things used to be better, and how the world has gone to shit since then. And that person was myself when I was younger. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, even more melancholically and somberly, utterly catching the cloaked figure off guard. No, that can't be. The cloaked figure tries to protest, but his words come out weak and hollow. Back when I was just a boy, living under the control of one of two empires in Asia on Earth, back in 719, Shadow Emperor Alpha says, even more melancholically and somberly, Wait, you're telling me you're from Earth? The cloaked figure asks, his eyes widening in surprise and incredulity. Of course, I was once just a man, but the hatred around me twisted me into the Dark Emperor and, well, that hatred led to me growing into a new power 281 years later, and then time was reset, and it happened all again. Then, 124 years later, I returned, and then, at the end of it all, the God Emperor who reset time, and his fellow God Emperor descendant tried to end my existence by merely snapping their fingers, reducing me to, well, the form you see me in currently. And I could, at any time, go back to being the Dark Emperor, but I dislike that dark part of me, and to try and end the hate of the God Emperors, I shattered their precious sacred relic, which only brought more pain and hatred, and thus, I seek to become something far beyond the God Emperors, and to change all of existence to rid the world of the pain and hatred. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, poetically, prophetically, melancholically, somberly, philosophically, and nihilistically. So, you're saying you're just another asshole with delusions of grandeur, playing God with the lives of countless innocents? The cloaked figure asks, still somewhat incredulous. I was, maybe still am, but I seek to ascend beyond that, and to shatter the cycle of pain and hatred and conflict. Shadow Emperor Alpha responds, and what about all those innocent lives you'll ruin in the process? The cloaked figure asks, struggling against the pain and the restraints. And what about all those innocent lives that the God Emperors, or even you, have ruined? Shadow Emperor Alpha responds, kind of breaking the cloaked figure's brain. Look, I don't have the answers you seek. All I know is that the world has always been like this, and it will always be like this. But if there's even a small chance that I can change that, even if it means sacrificing some along the way, then I will take it. I will become something greater than any of you, and I will use that power to bring peace and prosperity to this world. Shadow Emperor Alpha says, his voice hardening, his eyes burning with determination. Shadow Emperor Alpha then leaves the cloaked figure there to let his fate of whether he would live or die be left to be decided by fate itself as he leads his empire in the continued attempted colonization of Jupiter. Meanwhile, the cloaked figure struggles against the restraints, tears streaming down his face as he curses the Shadow Emperor Alpha for his hubris and naivete. He knows that the world will never change, that the cycle of pain and hatred will continue to turn, no matter what anyone does. But still, there is a small part of him that wonders if perhaps the Shadow Emperor Alpha is right. Perhaps there is a way to break the cycle, to bring about a new age of peace and prosperity. As he watches the Shadow Emperor Alpha leave, he can't help but feel a sense of awe and fear mixed together. And shortly afterwards, he finally drifts into the eternal sleep of death. The Shadow Emperor Alpha's conquest of Jupiter continues apace, as the forces of the Shadow Empire carve out new territories and establish new colonies on the gas giant. The people of these colonies, all born and raised in the embrace of the Shadow Emperor Alpha's empire, know nothing of the struggle and strife that once defined their forebears' existence. They live in peace and prosperity, their lives governed by laws of order and progress. The Shadow Emperor Alpha rules over his empire with an iron fist, but also with a gentle hand. He is a wise and just leader who understands that true greatness is not achieved through brute force, but rather through the betterment of one's people. His subjects look up to him as a father figure, and his word is law.